I've said I was ready for something real with 4 different men in the past 3 years. With 2 of them, I was lying to myself. With 1, I was lying to him. With the 4th, I was finally telling the truth. The difference wasn't in how much I liked them or how much I wanted a relationship. It was in whether I had done the internal work that real relationships actually require. Readiness isn't about desire. It's about capacity, and capacity can only be built through honest self-examination and emotional development most people avoid doing. I'm going to show you the 5 reliable indicators that separate genuine relationship readiness from aspirational desire, so you never again waste time on someone who wants love in theory but can't sustain it in practice. The consistency test. Someone who's genuinely ready shows up the same way, whether they're excited, stressed, busy, or going through personal challenges. The first indicator of real readiness is emotional consistency. Their interest in you, their communication patterns, and their investment in building connection remains stable, regardless of what else is happening in their life. When I wasn't ready, but thought I was, my engagement with relationships fluctuated dramatically based on my mood, my work stress, my social calendar, or my general life satisfaction. If I was having a good week, I was all in. If I was overwhelmed or anxious, I disappeared or became emotionally unavailable. Month 1 with someone I wasn't ready for, I'm texting constantly, planning dates, talking about future trips together because work is going well and I'm feeling optimistic about life in general. Month 2, a family crisis hits and suddenly I have no emotional bandwidth for relationship maintenance. I go from daily communication to responding every 2 days, from enthusiastic date planning to let me check my schedule, from future-focused conversations to let's just see how things go. What genuine readiness looks like. Consistent communication and emotional availability that doesn't dramatically shift based on external circumstances. Someone who's ready has learned to maintain relationship investment even when life gets complicated, because they understand that partnership means being present during difficult times, not just during peak moments. The consistency extends beyond just good times and bad times. It includes consistency between words and actions, consistency between private behavior and public acknowledgement, consistency between early dating enthusiasm and long-term relationship maintenance. Understanding the consistency test. Someone who's genuinely ready doesn't love you conditionally based on how their day is going or how stressed they are about other areas of life. Their investment in you is stable because it's based on genuine commitment rather than emotional convenience. What fake readiness looks like? Extreme enthusiasm followed by unexplained distance. Passionate future planning followed by day-by-day uncertainty. Deep emotional sharing followed by weeks of surface-level interaction. What genuine readiness demonstrates: steady presence, reliable communication, and emotional availability that doesn't require perfect life circumstances to maintain. My throat would tighten every time life got stressful, and I realized I was already pulling away from the relationship because I knew that meant I wasn't as ready as I'd claimed to be. But consistency was just the first indicator. Deeper readiness reveals itself in how someone handles conflict. The conflict navigation indicator. Someone who's ready for something real can disagree with you without making you the enemy or running from the relationship. The second indicator of genuine readiness is the ability to navigate conflict as an opportunity for deeper understanding, rather than evidence that the relationship is doomed or that you're incompatible. When I wasn't ready, any disagreement felt like a threat to the safety of our connection. If you were frustrated with me, I interpreted it as rejection. If we had different opinions about something important, I assumed we were fundamentally mismatched. If you needed to address a problem in our relationship, I felt criticized and defensive rather than curious about your perspective. The pattern with someone I wasn't ready for. Our first real disagreement about spending time with each other's friends becomes a 3-day silent treatment, followed by me questioning whether we should be together at all. What changed when I was actually ready? Disagreements became conversations about understanding each other's needs, rather than battles to prove who was right. Conflict became information about how to love each other better, rather than evidence that love wasn't working. With the person I was genuinely ready for, when we disagreed about how much time to spend together during busy work periods, instead of panicking that we were incompatible, I was curious about understanding his need for focused work time and communicating my need for connection during stressful periods. Understanding conflict navigation readiness. Someone who's ready doesn't make your needs wrong when they conflict with theirs. They don't punish you with silence or emotional withdrawal when you bring up problems. They don't threaten to leave every time the relationship requires work or compromise. What unreadiness looks like in conflict? Shutting down, making you the bad guy for having needs, threatening breakup as manipulation, inability to separate relationship problems from personal attacks. What readiness looks like? Staying present during difficult conversations, asking questions to understand your perspective, working together to find solutions rather than trying to win arguments. My chest would relax instead of tighten when we disagreed, because I knew we were building something together rather than defending our individual positions against each other. Conflict navigation reveals emotional maturity, but the third indicator shows practical readiness, the integration willingness. Someone who's ready naturally includes you in their existing life rather than keeping you in a separate relationship compartment. The third indicator of genuine readiness is willingness to integrate you into their established social circles, family relationships, career considerations, and daily routines, without needing to be pushed or convinced to do so. When I wasn't ready, I unconsciously kept relationships separate from my real life. I wanted to see the person regularly, but I wasn't eager to introduce them to my friends, include them in family gatherings, or adjust my lifestyle to accommodate shared experiences and mutual planning. The separation looked like months of regular dating without meeting important people in my life, reluctance to post about the relationship on social media, resistance to making plans that required advanced coordination, treating the relationship like an addition to my life, rather than integration with my life. Month 4 with someone I wasn't ready for. He suggests we attend my coworker's wedding together, and I panic about how to introduce him, whether my colleagues will judge our relationship, if bringing him means we're serious in a way I'm not sure I can handle. What integration readiness looks like. Natural excitement about sharing your life with someone, rather than anxiety about mixing your worlds. Genuine eagerness to have them meet people who matter to you and to meet people who matter to them. If you're watching this because you're trying to assess someone's relationship readiness, subscribe now. What I reveal next shows how genuine readiness demonstrates itself through actions, not just words. With the person I was actually ready for, I found myself looking forward to introducing him to my friends, excited about including him in holiday plans with my family, naturally adjusting my weekend routines to create space for shared activities without feeling like I was losing my independence. Understanding integration willingness. Someone who's ready doesn't compartmentalize the relationship as something separate from their real life. They want you to be part of their actual world, not just their dating world. What fake readiness does? Keeps you separate from important relationships and life events, treats including you as a big decision rather than natural progression, resists planning that acknowledges the relationship's importance. What genuine readiness demonstrates? Natural inclusion in social events, eagerness to share important relationships, comfort with public acknowledgement of your importance in their life. My stomach would flutter with excitement rather than anxiety when thinking about my friends meeting the person I was genuinely ready to love, because I was proud of what we were building together. But integration is external. The fourth indicator reveals internal readiness, the emotional availability depth. Someone who is ready can be present with both your emotions and their own without getting overwhelmed or shutting down. The fourth indicator of genuine readiness is consistent emotional availability, the ability to stay present during vulnerable moments, support you through difficult periods, and share their own struggles without using emotional intensity as reason to create distance. When I wasn't ready, emotional depth felt dangerous rather than intimate. If you shared something that was really bothering you, I felt responsible for fixing it rather than just being present with your experience. If I was going through something difficult, I retreated to handle it alone rather than trusting that you can support me without judgment. The emotional unavailability showed up as changing the subject when conversations got too deep, offering solutions when you needed empathy, becoming distant after particularly intimate moments, inability to ask for support when I was struggling. Month 5 with someone I wasn't ready for, he opens up about anxiety he's been having about work pressure. And instead of just listening and being supportive, I immediately start suggesting solutions, changing the subject to lighter topics, and feeling overwhelmed by the responsibility of his emotional state. What emotional readiness actually looks like? Being able to witness someone's struggles without needing to fix them. Sharing your own vulnerabilities without immediately needing space afterward. Staying present during intense emotions rather than retreating or becoming overwhelmed. With the person I was genuinely ready for, when he was worried about his father's health, I could listen to his fears without trying to solve the situation, offer comfort without feeling burdened by his pain, and share my own family concerns without immediately pulling away from the intimacy that vulnerability creates. Understanding emotional availability. Someone who's ready doesn't use emotional intensity as evidence that the relationship is too much work. They don't retreat after deep conversations or vulnerable moments. They can handle both giving and receiving emotional support without feeling overwhelmed. What emotional unreadiness looks like? Consistent pattern of intimacy followed by distance, inability to be present with partner struggles without becoming anxious or distant, treating emotional depth as relationship burden rather than relationship building. What emotional readiness demonstrates? Staying present after vulnerable sharing, consistent comfort with emotional intimacy, ability to ask for and provide support without using emotional needs as reason for distance. My heart would feel open rather than guarded after we shared something vulnerable, because I wasn't afraid of the closeness that emotional honesty creates. But emotional availability supports the most important indicator of all, the commitment follow-through. Someone who's ready backs up their relationship words with relationship actions consistently over time. The fifth and most reliable indicator of genuine readiness is follow-through, making plans and keeping them, stating intentions and acting on them, expressing commitment and demonstrating it through choices that prioritize the relationship's growth and stability. When I wasn't ready, my words were always ahead of my actions. I talked about wanting a serious relationship while consistently choosing behaviors that prevented serious relationships from developing. I expressed commitment while making decisions that showed I was still prioritizing my own comfort over our shared growth. The follow-through gap looked like talking about moving in together while making no concrete steps toward shared housing, discussing exclusive commitment while maintaining dating app profiles, expressing love while avoiding difficult conversations that would deepen intimacy, Month 6, with someone I wasn't ready for, I tell him I love him and want to build a future together. But when he suggests we start looking for apartments we could share, I find reasons to postpone, delay, and avoid actually taking steps that would make our commitment real rather than theoretical. What genuine readiness demonstrates: words and actions that align consistently over months, not just weeks. Plans that get followed through rather than endlessly discussed. Commitments that result in actual life changes rather than just conversations about life changes. With the person I was actually ready for, when we talked about exclusivity, I deleted my dating apps that day. When we discussed moving in together, I started researching neighborhoods and planning timeline without needing to be convinced or pushed. Understanding commitment follow-through. Someone who is ready doesn't just talk about the relationship they want. They actively create it through daily choices that demonstrate their investment. Their actions consistently support their stated intentions. What fake readiness produces: endless conversations about commitment without concrete steps toward it. Expressions of love that aren't backed up by prioritizing the relationship when difficult choices arise. What genuine readiness creates: consistent alignment between stated intentions and actual behaviors. Follow through on plans and commitments. Choices that demonstrate rather than just express investment in the relationship. My whole body felt calm rather than anxious when making concrete commitment decisions, because I was finally ready for my actions to match my words. These 5 indicators reveal the difference between wanting something and being prepared for it. The difference between someone who wants a relationship and someone who's ready for one isn't about how much they like you or how compatible you are. It's about whether they've developed the emotional capacity and practical skills that sustained partnership actually requires. Genuine readiness shows itself through consistency that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. Conflict navigation that builds rather than threatens connection. Natural integration of you into their real life. Emotional availability that stays present during intensity, and follow-through that backs up words with actions. These indicators protect you from investing in someone's potential rather than their demonstrated capacity, and help you recognize when someone has moved beyond aspirational desire into actual relationship preparedness. Here's what I wish someone had told me before I wasted years thinking I was ready, when I was still developing the skills real relationships require. Readiness isn't about wanting love enough. It's about having done the emotional work that makes you capable of sustaining love when it stops feeling easy and starts requiring daily choice and commitment. The most important thing to understand about readiness is that it's not binary. It develops over time through experience, self-reflection, and often therapy or other personal growth work that helps someone understand their own patterns and develop healthier relationship skills. Do I regret the relationships I entered before I was ready? Not entirely, because they taught me what readiness actually requires and motivated me to develop the capacity I was lacking. Do I wish I had been more honest with myself about my limitations before involving other people in my learning process? Absolutely. Because claiming readiness before having it wastes everyone's time and creates unnecessary heartbreak. Would I encourage someone to wait for someone to become ready rather than accepting their current capacity? Only if that person is actively working on their readiness, rather than just hoping it will develop naturally without effort. If you're currently trying to assess someone's relationship readiness, look at their patterns over months, not their words during conversations. Watch how they handle stress, conflict, integration, vulnerability, and follow-through when it requires effort, rather than when it feels easy. Trust that people are showing you their current capacity, and make your relationship decisions based on what they can actually sustain, rather than what they aspire to become. And remember that genuine readiness is rare and valuable. It's worth waiting for, rather than trying to develop it in someone who isn't doing the work themselves. But how do you balance giving someone time to grow with protecting yourself from indefinite waiting? How do you encourage someone's development without enabling their avoidance of the work readiness requires? These questions require wisdom about the difference between supporting someone's growth and becoming invested in their potential rather than their reality. Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is trust that readiness can't be rushed or created by the right relationship. It has to be developed independently. The person who's genuinely ready for something real will demonstrate it consistently through actions that align with their words. And that alignment is the foundation on which lasting relationships are built.